Hey guys, hello, we keep it dirty off-road, and today we're at Hanna Racing Design talking to Bailey about upgrades we're going to be doing to the truck. Now, it's no secret, I hate the styling of the truck. I absolutely hate it. I don't like the way the bumpers look. It's totally off. So we're going to be doing some changes to get the ugly off the truck. This is my truck, right? It has the RPG Raceline bumpers on it. It's a solid bumper. It's very strong. It's got some cool little features on it, right? Where it allows you to retain the stock tow hooks, but I don't like the way it looks. I think it comes out way too far. It doesn't really accentuate the lines of the truck all that great. You know, it sticks out way too far. I'm not a fan of this style of bumper, so I want to change it out. I have an idea of what I want to do, and it's kind of copying a couple of different trucks that we looked at, right? We've looked at Eric 2AM's truck. I really love the way his bumper is, so we're going to kind of do a combination of his bumper with my little twist, and Hanna Racing Design is going to help us do it. We're going to take off half of these lights because, I'm sorry guys, that's overkill. If you do the math, counting those lights, that light under there, and the two lights up top, that's $4,000 worth of light. It is overkill. So we're gonna change it up a little bit. Hanna Racing Design is gonna help us do it. The other thing we're gonna do, guys, is proper reinforcement. This truck only has the slot deletes. It's a very common setup that most Gen 1s have. But if you guys look, I'm already scraping the paint off of this. And this is a common problem. If you look at mine, those have been bent and warped a few times. So I actually want to add some reinforcement. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of extra work for the Hanna Racing team to get that done, but they're going to cut those out and we're going to do some proper reinforcement both front and back, as well as add some reinforcement at the back of the frame. Now, I have a bar in there right now. So we're going to kind of triangle that up and gusset that up a little bit too to kind of make that stronger, because that's one of the most common areas where these things bend. You bend the lower control arms and you bend the rear of the frame. So these guys are going to help us address it. Now, if you guys never heard of Hanna Racing Design, they're ran by a gentleman called Bailey. He's a really cool dude. He comes highly recommended for a lot of the guys that I run with, and it's the reason why we chose him, and he's going to help us out get the front done. That's not it. As far as what we're going to do for the truck, we're going to do a whole lot more, but more on that later. We're going to do that with another shop. So stay tuned for the updates on this one. Bailey's also going to help us get rid of that. That's going to be no more once it gets done at the end of the week, and we're going to replace it with that. We're going to do the third brake light kit.
That's perfectly fine.
No, it's not. It
That's
sucks.
perfectly fine.
No.
All we just need is a little bit more super glue.
Shut up.
It's
Shut
perfectly
up.
fine.
Go the lime green UTV over there.
Ooh, it's not lime green enough.
First order of business was to take care of the LCA reinforcement. When Bailey got the truck, he got into it right away. He took out the old suspension, took off the old bumper, dropped the steering rack, and because I had slot deletes and we needed to get those cut out, he had to also drop the differential. If your truck is still stock, you don't need to drop the diff like we are. They would just clean up the areas and install the plates. Once the plates were cut off, area was prepped for welding, and we also decided to do a weld-on bumper, so those areas had to be prepped out as well. The HDR crew created some templates for us, cut out some new plates, made sure that they went up as high as possible so that we can get the most strength, and I also asked them to box in the bottom so that we can get additional strength to that whole area. Since we had to drop the diff and the steering rack, this was the perfect time for an experiment. We've always wanted to do a diff cover with the drain plug for the front, but to install it requires a lot of work. You have to either take out the steering rack or drop the whole differential down. There's no way to access the bolts and remove the cover while it's in place. Either the steering rack or the differential has to drop in order for you to install an aftermarket diff cover. On top of that, the thickness matters. You need to consider how thick the new cover is going to be because the clearances are super tight. Gen 1 has a little bit more space than the Gen 2. The Gen 2 with that really thin diff cover is almost right up against and almost touching the steering rack. With the Gen 1, there's about an inch and a half space, so that you have a little bit more to work with. So on the Gen 1, we were going to make it happen. Now, the cover that I wanted was the Spicer Dana diff cover. The Spicer Dana diff cover was not available anywhere. Everyone, for the most part, showed it back ordered or not in stock. None of the suppliers had it. Those that did show that they had it in stock didn't actually have it in stock. For the most part, when we call them up, even though they showed it in stock, we call them up and say, hey, can you validate that you actually do have them in stock? Most of them actually didn't have them in stock. So make sure you guys keep an eye out when you're ordering these. Just because they say it's in stock doesn't mean it's actually in stock. So due to time constraints and everything else, we ended up finding a no-name brand cover on Amazon. We got a lube locker, and then we ordered some oil with the the AMSOIL easy pouches so we can make the swap easier. And it also helped us out because it all came in just a couple of days, right? Ordering from Amazon is super quick. Now, if you want to get yourself a cover, keep in mind what's available out there. If you can't get the Spicer Dana diff cover, but you're looking for a Ford 8.8 diff cover with the 10 bolts. That's important. Ford 8.8 with the 10 bolts. That's what the actual truck has. It's the same for the Gen 1 and the Gen 2, so you can't go wrong either way. They have the same exact differential. You also want to try to find one that has the most clearance as possible. Most of them will not have enough clearance. That's why I wanted to get the Dana Spicer one. The Gen 2s, the clearance is even less, guys. So be real careful. You Gen 2 guys, you may find that no aftermarket diff cover will work. The reason I say this, guys, is because when we put ours on, we found out that it was going to be a very tight fit. Let me show you those clips now as we went back to Hanna Racing Design to get an update on the build and then also install the diff cover on the differential. Now, Bailey was nice enough to let us do the diff cover installation at his shop. He let us use a table that he had there, let us use some of his tools, and we were able to get installed fairly quick.
They actually look like they're in good shape, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crap, junk we have to clean out, but
Yeah. For the most part, they're in good shape.
Normally when I do this, I use thread sealant. He didn't have any available and he recommended we use Teflon. That's what he normally uses, so that's what we did on all those bolts that would have any access to the actual oil on the inside of the cover.
so a couple things we did. We installed the drain plug and we installed the fill plug. We're not going to use this fill plug because this is too high. That's actually too much oil compared to where that fill plug is. Still going to use the factory fill plug when we fill it up. We're not going to use this one. And then also, these came pre-installed. We had to back them all the way out. So we had to make sure that they were all the way out. And then we're going to be ready to set these and then lock them in with these ones right here. We also put some thread sealant on it. Now it's a fun time. Putting it on.
Now, installation was fairly easy. I wish this thing came with much better hardware, but it doesn't. We could not reuse the stock hardware because of how this diff was milled. Again, yet another reason why you want to get the Dana Spicer cover, because torquing was also kind of sketchy. There was no making a mistake here. The book torque spec for these bolts was 24 foot-pounds. That's very, very low. It seemed also a little high considering the hardware that came with the kit, and the kit had no instructions as to a different torque spec to apply to those bolts. So what we figured we're going to do is we're going to start off at 15 foot-pounds and see if it would leak from there. We also made sure that we put Loctite on every single bolt to kind of back that up. Now, once we got it all done, it looked great, but she definitely stuck out a lot more, like close to an inch more than the stock one. And the stock one was very, very thin compared to this one. I seriously think that for your Gen 2 guys, I think you're not going to be able to do an aftermarket one. I think even the Dana Spicer one's going to be a little too tight. You know, keep in mind, it's the same diff. Gen 1 and Gen 2 share the same exact front diff. I think even the Gen 3 has the same exact front diff. It's going to be very tight. And the Gen 2 has the electronic power assisting system that's much thicker in that area, and it's just going to make it that much more harder to put an aftermarket diff cover. As it is, it's going to be tight for the Gen 1. We went ahead and left it there and let Bailey get started on the front bumper and finish off all those works before he installed the diff cover and everything. And once he did get it in, it actually ended up being very, very tight. We'll be creating a separate video on this on the long term and all that stuff of the front diff cover. We'll even, you know, take a lot of the footage here of how we install the diff cover and make a dedicated video for those guys that end up searching this. But it's going to be very tight, and you're gonna have to do some shaving to get it to work, and it's definitely going to be much more closer than I would like for comfort. We're going to keep an eye on ours, and once we've had it for a month or two in dumps and trails, we'll give you guys some updates and do a dedicated video on this diff cover.
And there's that tube. I probably wasted how many hours on that?
Not too many.
So I think once you round that off, if we have the rounded end right there, I think that's going to go with that line right there, you know? I'm just trying to make it different, man. Everybody has the flat smile Raptor, and I don't want that.
Yep.
So the only thing they do to the tow hitch mounts is they just double it up.
Oh, where they thread in?
Yeah, they just double up the metal, and that's it. That's
The frame is just two pieces, a channel, like staggered, overlap. And then, yeah, they just have nuts in here. But luckily, I mean, all your force is going this way on the bolts, so it's pretty solid, you know?
Can't wait to see it done, man.
Now, I got regular updates on the design and build of this thing. Because it is custom, there was a lot of questions along the way. There was a lot of discussion about how wide we wanted to make it, what kind of ends we wanted. I wanted some round ones to make it look a little bit different. But when it came to like the support and the skid plates and all that stuff, I really gave Bailey some freedom here because I've seen some of his other work and I like what I was seeing. Now, one of the big areas that I wanted to address was I wanted tow hooks on the front of the truck. Every frame cut bumper I've seen doesn't have tow hooks, and I'm always either rescuing or getting rescued. So I wanted a way to rescue people and be able to tie it to the frame. I don't want to tie it to the lower control arms. That's not a good point. Bailey came up with a really good option under the frame with some really solid tabs that I absolutely love. And the best part about it is they're all hidden. They don't mess up the lines of the bumper whatsoever, and it's still connected to the strongest port in the frame. Now, for the light bar, I wanted something different. Everybody out there has the same setup. It's all the same lights. It's all linear. They're all right up against each other. I don't like that. I want my truck to stand out a little bit. On the same token, I wanted more of that 70s, 80s look, right? With the old KC lights and all that stuff, slightly larger lights. But I didn't want to go with something crazy like the Baja design lights that are a little bit ugly, right? Those big LPs are super bright, but they're ugly. I also wanted to add a little bit of a gap between the lights because inevitably I'm going to have to crawl into this engine bay to work on the truck. It could be here, it could be out in the trails. And every time I've been out there, I've noticed people struggle to get into the truck. They have nowhere to step on. So I wanted a small gap just so that I could step on. I think this is also an area where Hanna Design Bailey, he really shined because his light tab setup is super strong. It's part of the structure of that light bar, so it really helped out reinforce that area of the bumper. Here's a first look at when we first picked up the truck and got our first glimpse at the bumper in its full glory.
Howdy.
It looks completely different, dude.
It definitely looks a lot different. I didn't even realize it when it was in the shop so much because it was all jacked up, you know? But then once I had it outside, parked next to these sharks, it was like,
Very, very different.
how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Freaking lower end looks properly reinforced now.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. That Keep It Dirty logo is covered.
It's not on there. We'll put it back on there in
No.
black.
No,
We have to get the skid plate in lime green.
no,
You're actually doing it in lime green this time?
no,
It might look good if we complete that line.
no.
It's in 3 pieces, right? The skid plate. You got this and that.
These are 1032s. Got nutserts in there, holding those like for threaded, you know, they're like threaded tabs, and then these are chromoly threaded tabs for these 516s.
Very cool. I like how they're flush.
Yeah, countersinks.
Because I was thinking of just getting this one powder coat and leaving those bare metal like that, so it kind of completes that line.
Okay.
I think that would look cool. Blame him for all the lime green on this truck. It's his fault. It's bright as fuck.
It's right.
It makes it stand out. And he picked the color too. He picked that fluorescent green color,
Yeah, it's.
which is nuts.
I like the green. Like I think it's a cool green color.
I don't think you're seeing what we see.
I see green.
He's colorblind, so
He's
we're not sure he
colorblind.
actually sees the color.
That's funny. My dad's colorblind too. Yeah. So these guys are like pretty solid now.
Yeah, my only concern is if I hit a bush, man. The whole idea was to have this break up the lines, right? Because everybody has the flat smile, and I hate the flat smile. This has a little bit different look to it now.
These ends are super cool. I got like freaking 15 messages on those. Everyone's like, hey, what's that? How'd you do that?
Told you, man. It's once you do something different, everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I wanted to do with this, man. I wanted to be a little bit different. I still got my step for when the truck has a problem.
Pretty cool. I've never done that or like really thought much about it, but it actually works pretty good.
I've seen everybody struggle to get into the truck.
Right.
I'm not gonna have that problem.
Right.
And that's mainly why we did it that way, is because I don't want to have that problem to get under there to go tighten a fucking fitting on the power steering pump.
Right.
Very cool, man. Thank you. Can you guys spot the tow hooks?
Yes.
They're right there. Nice and hidden out of the way. I love that, dude, because they're nice and hidden.
Yeah.
Why is it? Even the freaking shock reservoir blocks are right there, which is perfect.
Yep. Exactly. The Resi's do it. They're about to.
I love that, dude, because I still get to keep that pre-runner look and have my tow hook.
It's a pretty like stealthy little add-on.
And then we
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I stared at those things. I tacked them on and I stared at them for like an hour. I stared at my welder, stared at them, because it's kind of a trick to weld those, because it's so thick to so thin.
But you can only weld them to the bottom, dude. The bottom's the only strong enough part. I had a bunch of people say, "Oh, just put them on the side." I was like, "No, it's not thick enough."
Oh no.
And I wouldn't have known why on the side until I saw that frame section cut out where you could see that it's doubled up, you know?
Yeah.
Once you see that, you're like, oh, okay, makes sense. It has to be either on the top or on the bottom, and there's no way to put it on top, so it's got to be on bottom. Looks good, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we got the old bumper loaded up.
Bailey went ahead and tacked on his logos to the sides, and we took her home. Oh yeah, and Bailey fixed the roof too. And here it is, guys. Here's the new bumper. It completely transformed the look of the whole truck, and I'm really happy with it. Now let me go over some of the features of this thing. First of all, let's look at the look. The look is completely different. You get that 70s, 80s look with the KC lights. We still have some of the Baja design lights because honestly, both of those KC lights combined isn't even the light output of just one of those Baja design lights. The light bar is super strong. I mean, look at this, guys. The tabs are part of the full strength of the whole bar on the ends. I mean, it is super strong. These don't go all the way, but that's okay. They don't need to, but look at that. That is super, super strong. Now, we also played with the lines a little bit. If you guys notice, it's cut short. It's cut short right here to match the line right there. And that is intentional. For the most part, the Gen 1 has that flat smile look. They all have it. And it just, to me, it just looks a little off. The Gen 2 always had this little bump out right here, right? That went up and over and kind of broke up the lines a little bit and changes the whole look of the truck. And it's, I think, why the Gen 2 is much better looking. I also think it's the reason why the Gen 3 doesn't look so good. That flat smile look, it looks wrong. It shouldn't be a flat line right there. We wanted the focus to be a little bit more on this line right here to kind of break that up a little bit, get rid of the flat smile, and really show the tires and the suspension a little bit better. And if you look at it, the eye draws you into the suspension now. The tires look bigger. The whole presence of the truck looks bigger, and then it's not all bumper. Now, I know this is coming. A lot of you guys are gonna bitch, well, if it's that short, what happens when you hit the branch and all that stuff? Honestly, guys, I'm not really worried about it. This is super strong as it is right now. Bailey and team made sure that they reconnected for that. And guys, mines were already broken. Both sides were broken with the RPG bumper, and the RPG bumper does a really good job of protecting it. And they were already broke. Both of the tabs back here were broken. So honestly, guys, it's one of those things where I'm not really gonna worry about it. Bumpers don't really offer protection. We actually saw some there that had the protection, they were still cracked. I'm not going to worry about it. You know, if it does become an issue later on down the road, we may add something here that'll also hold some lights. But for now, we're going to leave it like that. I love the way this looks. Skid plates. I love the two skid plate design. I mean, look at this. Look at the bolts, how they're all nice and integrated in. I love this design. Bailey does a killer job with it. I love the angle of it. It looks good, man. It just looks really good. I think later on, guys, we are going to do this in green just to match the Off-Road Republic skid plates down there and give her a completely different look. Now, tow hooks. Can you guys spot the tow hooks? But you can't. Most people won't even notice them. The tow hooks, right there. You see that? They're right underneath the frame. They're at the strongest point. They're nice and hidden out of the way, but if I get it to some shit, I can put a D-ring on there and be able to pull it out. Super strong setup too. Those are all full steel. And honestly, guys, I love it because you have to give the truck a second look to notice that it does have a tow point down there. And it doesn't mess with the lines. It doesn't drag anything. It looks great. And then finally, we did our lower control arm reinforcement. I mean, look at that. Full plate all the way through. Boxed in at the bottom, both front and back, and as high as they possibly can. Now, we didn't do the back because the back didn't really need it. We were going to mess with it too much, but we did all the reinforcement up front. So this is it, guys. I'm really happy with the way this came out. I actually love the design. It's unique, it's different. I don't think anybody else is gonna have a similar setup like this for a while. It's exactly what I wanted, so I'm very happy. And that's the thing about custom, guys. When you go custom, you can get them made however you want, and if you don't like something, you're gonna have it changed. If you wanna do something similar, guys, don't be afraid to go this route. Reach out to Hanna Race and Design. He does really good work. I'm really blown away by his welds and the quality of the work, and I highly, highly recommend it. He came highly recommended to me. Hi guys, stay tuned for the next video. We're not done doing the design changes to the truck yet. We're gonna go to West Side Off-Road Group next, give her a custom rear bumper, and get started on our cage to really start finishing up this truck. Hi guys, that's it. Put any questions, comments below. Thanks for watching.